G'day everyone, welcome to Downder English, the show where we help you speak real Australian English.
In today's episode, we're covering phrasal verbs, Aussie slang, idioms, pronunciation, and so much more.
Whether you're a beginner or advanced learner, there's something here for everyone.
Grab a coffee.
And let's dive in. I have to say, talking about Australian pub culture today feels very personal to me because some of my best memories involve a cold drink and a great conversation at a local pub.
That's exactly it, isn't it? There's something about the Australian pub that just feels like home, no matter where you are in the country.
I remember the first time I walked into a proper Australian pub and just felt this immediate sense of warmth and belonging, like everyone was already your friend.
That's the thing about Aussie pubs. They have this incredible ability to make strangers feel like regulars from day one.
It's funny because I grew up going to the local pub with my dad on weekends, and it was just this totally normal, natural part of life.
Same here, and I think that's what makes it so unique compared to bar culture in other countries. It's genuinely woven into everyday Australian life.
It wasn't just about drinking either. It was about community, catching up with neighbors, watching the footy, just being together.
Absolutely. And that community aspect is something that's been part of Australian pub culture since the very early days of settlement in this country.
Okay, so let's get into some of the really interesting stuff because Australian pub history is actually fascinating when you start digging into it.
It really is. You know, the first licensed pub in Australia was the Sergeant Major's Row in Sydney, which opened back in 1796. So we're talking about a very long history here.
That blows my mind. Like, pubs have basically been part of Australian society from almost the very beginning of European settlement.
And for a long time, they were actually one of the most important social institutions in any town, often the first proper building to go up after a settlement was established.
I love that, the pub before the church in some cases, which says a lot about Australian priorities, honestly.
There's definitely something very Australian about that, and the 6 o'clock swill is another fascinating piece of history, where pubs had to close at 6 p.m. so workers would rush in after work and drink as fast as they could.
Oh, that's wild. I had no idea that was a thing. So that's actually where some of that drinking culture came from.
Exactly. It was in place for decades and really shaped how Australians approach drinking, though thankfully those laws have long since changed.
So speaking of culture, let's talk about the actual experience of being in an Australian pub, because there are so many little things that make it so distinctly Australian.
Oh, where do I even start? The front bar, the beer garden, the tab for horse racing, the pokies room. It's almost like a whole little world inside one building.
The beer garden thing is huge. Australians really do love drinking outside, and I think that says everything about the lifestyle and the weather.
And then there's the pub meal culture. The chicken parma, the steak, the schnitzel. Honestly, some of the most satisfying food you'll ever eat, and usually at a really reasonable price.
Don't even get me started on the chicken parmigiana debate, because whether you call it a parma or a parmi is apparently a very serious cultural dividing line in this country.
It's Parma in Victoria and Palmy in Queensland, and people have very strong feelings about this. I've seen genuine arguments break out over it.
That kind of passionate debate over something so simple is just so perfectly Australian to me. It's brilliant.
And then there's the pub quiz culture, the live music nights, the meat raffles on a Sunday. It's all part of this rich tapestry of experiences you get at a good local.
Let's talk about some of the challenges, though, because navigating pub culture can actually be a little tricky if you don't know the unwritten rules.
The biggest one is definitely shouting, which is the tradition of buying a round of drinks for your group. And if you don't understand that system, you can accidentally come across as really rude.
Oh, absolutely. Not shouting your round is considered pretty bad form, and people will definitely notice and remember it.
The best way to handle it is just to pay attention to when someone buys drinks for the group, and make sure you offer to get the next round when it comes around.
And if you're new to a pub environment or you're visiting from overseas, just ask someone. Australians are generally very happy to explain the etiquette without making you feel bad about it.
Another challenge can be the noise levels. Some pubs on a Friday night are incredibly loud, so choosing a quieter pub or going earlier in the evening makes a big difference.
That's a great tip. Going to the pub at 5 p.m. rather than 9 p.m. is a completely different and honestly much more relaxed experience.
And for people who don't drink alcohol, which is totally fine and becoming more common, just know that most pubs now have great non-alcoholic options, and nobody should pressure you about what you're drinking.
So as we wrap up, I just want to say that pub culture in Australia is genuinely one of those things that connects people across all walks of life.
It really is a great equalizer. You can sit next to a tradie, a doctor, a student, a retiree, and everyone is just having a conversation and enjoying each other's company.
My biggest tip for anyone who hasn't fully explored pub culture yet is to find your local, the one closest to where you live, and just become a regular there.
There's real magic in being a regular. The staff know your name, the other locals become familiar faces, and suddenly you have this little community anchor in your life.
And don't be afraid to strike up a conversation with a stranger at the bar. That's basically a proud Australian tradition, and most people are genuinely open to it.
Also try the pub food. Seriously, don't overlook it. A good counter meal at a good pub is one of life's simple pleasures, and very underrated.
I think what I love most about Aussie pub culture is that it's never really been about getting drunk. It's always been about connection and belonging.
That's beautifully said. And whether you're a lifelong local or just discovering it for the first time, there's always a seat at the bar for you.
Today, we're diving into some really fun phrasal verbs all about Australian pub culture.
Yeah, this is a great topic because pubs are such a big part of Australian social life.
Okay, let's kick things off with our first one. Head out, which means to go somewhere, usually to leave your current location and go to a place.
You'd say something like, "We're heading out to the pub after work. Want to join?" And it's perfect for casual invitations.
I love that one. It's so natural. Next up, we have shout someone. And in Australia, this specifically means to buy a round of drinks for others.
So you might hear, "It's my turn to shout. What are you having?" And this is very uniquely Australian pub language.
That one is so important to know if you're ever in an Aussie pub. Now let's talk about round, which means to gather people together in one place.
A good example is, "Can you round up the others?" we need to grab a table before it gets too busy. Use this when you're trying to collect your group.
Next, we have settle in, and this means to get comfortable and make yourself at home in a place.
You'd hear something like, "We found a great corner booth and really settled in for the night." It suggests you're planning to stay for a while.
Oh, I like that one. It sounds so cozy. Moving on, we have knock back, which means to refuse or turn down an offer. But in pub culture, it also means to drink something quickly.
So you could say, "He knocked back his beer and ordered another one straight away." Use the drinking meaning when someone drinks fast and casually.
That's a good one to know because it has that double meaning. Our next phrasal verb is close up, meaning when a business finishes for the day and locks its doors.
For example, the pub closes up at midnight on weekdays, so we need to leave soon. This is useful for knowing when to wrap up your evening.
Super practical. Now we have catch up, which means to spend time with someone you haven't seen in a while and reconnect.
A classic pub sentence would be, "Let's catch up over a cold one at the local." Australians often use catch up as a casual way to suggest meeting socially.
And our last one is wind down, which means to relax and slow your pace, especially at the end of a busy day or event.
You'd say, "After a long week, there's nothing better than winding down at your local pub with friends." Use this when the mood is calm and relaxed.
That's a perfect note to end on. 8 great phrasal verbs that really capture the spirit of Aussie pub culture.
Practice using them, and you'll sound completely natural next time someone shouts you around.
Today we're diving into some classic Australian pub culture slang that you'll definitely hear if you ever walk into a local bar down under.
These are words that real Aussies use every single day, so let's get into it.
All right, first up we have bottle-o, which is what Aussies call a bottle shop or liquor store, usually the one right next to or attached to the pub.
Hey mate, the pub's run out of your favourite beer, but there's a bottle-o just around the corner if you want to grab some.
Next one is schooner, and this is actually a specific size of beer glass holding about 425 milliliters, and it's one of the most common ways to order a beer at the bar.
I'll grab a schooner of the pale ale, thanks, and whatever my mate's having.
Now this one's really fun. Shout, which means it's your turn to buy a round of drinks for everyone in your group.
It's my shout this round, so what are you all having?
Moving on, we have arvo, which is just the super laid-back Aussie way of saying afternoon, and you'll often hear it when someone's planning a pub session.
We're heading down to the local for a few drinks this arvo. You should come along.
This next one is local, which is what Aussies affectionately call their favorite neighborhood pub, the one they go back to again and again.
I've been going to the same local for about 10 years now. The staff all know my name and my drink.
And our last one for today is frothy, which is a fun casual word for a beer, and it perfectly captures that cold, bubbly glass you're looking forward to after a long day.
After that long shift at work, all I want is to sit down with a cold frothy and watch the footy.
Those were 6 brilliant words that'll make you sound like a true Aussie local next time you walk into a pub.
practice them, use them, and we'll catch you next time with more great slang.
Today we're diving into some really fun collocations all about Australian pub culture.
This is a great topic because pubs are such a big part of everyday life in Australia.
Let's kick things off with our first collocation, which is grab a cold one. The words grab and cold one go together naturally because Australians often use cold one as a casual way to mean a cold beer.
You'd hear someone say, "Hey mate, want to grab a cold one after work?" all the time at an Australian pub.
Next up, we have shout around. In Australian pub culture, shout means to buy drinks for everyone, and it always goes with round, meaning one set of drinks for the group.
So someone might say, "It's my turn to shout around. What are you all having?"
Our third collocation is knock off drinks. Knock off means to finish work, and drinks pairs with it naturally to describe the drinks people have right after their shift ends.
A classic sentence would be, "We're all heading to the pub for knock-off drinks. You should come along."
Moving on, we have pub meal. These two words go together because in Australia, pubs almost always serve hearty, simple food, and a pub meal is a very recognized and expected thing.
You might hear, "I don't feel like cooking tonight. Let's just go get a pub meal."
The fifth collocation is sink a few. Sink is a very Australian way to say drink, and it naturally pairs with a few to mean having several beers in a casual, relaxed way.
Someone would say, "We went to the local last Friday and sank a few with the boys."
Now let's talk about local pub. The word local here means the pub closest to where you live, and Australians use local and pub together constantly to talk about their favorite neighborhood spot.
You'd often hear, "See you at the local pub at 7, meaning everyone knows exactly which pub is being talked about.
Our seventh collocation is bar tab. Bar and tab always go together because a tab is a running bill you open at the bar, so you can keep ordering without paying each time.
A typical example would be, "Let's open a bar tab so we don't have to keep going up to the counter every time."
And our final collocation is happy hour. Happy and hour are completely fixed together and refer to that special time when drinks are cheaper, usually in the late afternoon at pubs.
You'd say something like, "They've got a great happy hour at that pub on the corner. Drinks are half price from 4 till 6.
And that wraps up all 8 collocations about Australian pub culture. What a fun set of phrases to learn.
Exactly. And the best part is, these expressions will make you sound really natural if you ever find yourself at an Aussie pub.
Today, we're diving into some really fun idioms that come straight from Australian pub culture.
Yeah, this is a great topic. Pubs are such a big part of Australian social life, so the language around them is really rich.
Let's kick things off with the first one. Shout around, which means to buy drinks for everyone in your group.
You'd hear someone say, "It's my turn to shout around. What's everyone having?"
I love that one because it really captures that generous, laid-back Australian spirit at the pub.
Exactly, and it leads perfectly into our next idiom. Over to you, Sam.
Right, so the next one is on the house, which means something is given to you for free, usually by the bar or restaurant.
A bartender might say, "The first drink is on the house tonight. Enjoy yourselves."
Next up is elbow bender, which is a fun, playful way to describe someone who drinks a lot or loves going to the pub.
So you might say, "Old Pete is a real elbow bender. You'll always find him at the bar on a Friday night."
Now this next one is very Australian, amber fluid, which is just a casual, affectionate term for beer.
Someone might say, "After a long week, there's nothing better than a cold amber fluid with your mates."
Moving along, we have sink a few, which simply means to drink a few beers, usually in a relaxed social setting.
You'd hear someone say, "Come on, let's go sink a few after work and catch up properly."
This next one is really colorful, sly grog, which refers to alcohol that's sold or drunk illegally or secretly.
In a historical context, you might say, "Back in the day, many places were secretly selling sly grog after hours."
Okay, here's a great one. Two-pot screamer, which describes someone who gets drunk very quickly, even after just a couple of drinks.
You'd laugh and say, "Don't give Jamie too much. He's a total two-pot screamer, and it's only 7 o'clock.
And our final idiom is watering hole, which is just a warm, informal way to refer to a pub or bar where people regularly meet.
Someone might say, "The local pub has been our favourite watering hole for years. Everyone knows your name in there."
And that wraps up our 8 pub culture idioms. What a fun and flavorful set of expressions.
Hopefully, next time you hear one of these, you'll feel right at home, whether you're in Australia or just chatting with an Aussie mate.
Today we're diving into some really fun descriptive words all about Australian pub culture.
Yeah, this is going to be a good one. Lots of colour and character in these words.
Let's kick things off with our first adjective, which is rowdy, and it means loud, lively, and a little bit wild in an energetic way.
You'd use it like this: "The pub got really rowdy after the footy match ended."
I love that one because it just captures that energy so well. And our next word is unpretentious, which means simple, honest, and not trying to impress anyone.
So you might say the local pub was totally unpretentious, just cold beer and good company.
That's such a perfect description of so many Aussie pubs, honestly. And now let's talk about welcoming, which means warm, friendly, and making you feel at home right away.
A great example would be, "The staff was so welcoming that I felt like a regular on my very first visit."
Next up, we have boisterous, and this one means cheerful, noisy, and full of high spirits in a really fun way.
You could say, "The crowd was boisterous, laughing and cheering all night long."
It's a slightly stronger version of rowdy, I think, with more joy in it. And our fifth adjective is laid back, meaning relaxed, easygoing, and without any stress or pressure.
That fits perfectly in a sentence like, "The whole vibe was really laid back. Nobody was in a hurry to leave."
Honestly, that's the dream pub experience right there. And now we have gritty, which describes something that's rough around the edges, real, and full of character.
So you might hear someone say, "It was a gritty old pub," but that's exactly what made it so charming.
There's something really lovable about a gritty pub, and our seventh word is communal, meaning shared, bringing people together and focused on the group rather than the individual.
A good example is, the long communal tables made it so easy to strike up a conversation with strangers.
And our final adjective today is iconic, which means something so well known and special that it represents a whole culture or era.
You'd say something like, "That old pub on the corner is iconic. It's been the heart of the neighborhood for over 100 years.
What a beautiful note to end on. And those 8 words really do paint such a vivid picture of what Aussie pub culture is all about.
Rowdy, unpretentious, welcoming, boisterous, laid-back, gritty, communal, and iconic. Keep these ones close.
Try using one of them this week and see how naturally it fits into your conversations.
Until next time, keep exploring the language and enjoying every word of the journey.
Today, we're diving into some tricky pronunciation words all about Australian pub culture.
Yeah, this is such a fun topic, and there are some words here that really trip people up.
First up is schooner, which is pronounced schooner, and it's a medium-sized glass of beer in Australia.
You might hear someone say, "I'll grab a schooner of lager," and just remember the sh sounds like sh, not sh.
Next we have parma, pronounced parma, which is short for chicken parmigiana, a super popular pub meal.
So you'd say the parma at this pub is legendary, and think of it like par as in golf, then just add ma.
Now let's talk about pokies, pronounced pokies, which is the Australian slang for poker machines or slot machines.
You'd hear the pokies room was packed on Friday night, and just remember the long O sound, like poke, with an E at the end.
This next one is interesting, squiz, pronounced meaning a quick look at something.
Someone might say, "Have a squiz at the menu before you order," and the double Z just gives it that sharp, buzzing finish.
Moving on to arvo, pronounced arvo, which means afternoon, and Australians love using it around pub time.
You'd say, "Let's meet at the pub this arvo," and think of it as just shortening afternoon and swapping the end for a quick vo.
Now here's a good one, bistro, pronounced bistro, which is the dining area inside an Australian pub.
So you might hear, "They do great steaks in the bistro," and remember the stress is on the first syllable, bis, not the second.
Let's do rissole, pronounced rissole, which is a fried meat patty you'll often find on a pub menu.
You'd say, "The rissole burger here is absolutely massive," and the trick is that the S in the middle stays soft, almost like risole.
Last but not least is bottle shop, pronounced bot-ool shop, which is the liquor store attached to many Australian pubs.
You might say, "I'll swing by the bottle shop on the way out," and just break it into 2 clear parts, bottle and shop. Nice and simple.
Those 8 words really paint a picture of a classic Australian pub experience, don't they?
Absolutely. And once you've got the pronunciation down, you'll sound totally natural ordering at the bar.
Practice these words a few times out loud, and you'll be surprised how quickly they start to feel comfortable.
And honestly, Australians will really appreciate the effort, so don't be shy about giving them a go.
Today we're diving into some really useful prepositions, and we're going to learn them through the world of Australian pub culture.
It's such a fun topic, and trust me, these prepositions will come up all the time in everyday conversation.
Let's kick things off with the preposition at. We use at to talk about being in a specific location or place.
Hey, are you coming? Everyone's already at the pub waiting for you.
Next up is for. We use for when we're talking about something being ordered or intended for a particular person or purpose.
I'll grab a round for the whole table. Don't worry about it.
Now let's look at around. We use around when something is happening in the general area or approximately nearby.
There are some really great pubs around the city centre that we should check out.
Moving on to with. We use with to describe doing something together or being in someone's company.
I went for a cold beer with my mates after the footy game on Saturday.
Here's a really useful one, after. We use after when something happens following another event or time.
It's a tradition here to head to the pub after work on a Friday afternoon.
Let's talk about over. We use over when something happens across a period of time or while sharing something.
We caught up and chatted over a couple of drinks for hours last night.
This one is really common, into. We use into when someone enters a place or becomes involved in something.
We walked into the pub and found the perfect spot right near the fireplace.
And our final preposition today is between. We use between when something involves exactly two people, places, or things.
It's always nice when there's a friendly rivalry between two pubs in the same neighbourhood.
And that wraps up our 8 prepositions explored through the wonderful world of Australian pub culture.
Keep practicing these in your everyday conversations, and you'll sound completely natural in no time.
Today, we're diving into storytelling techniques you can use when talking about Australian pub culture.
These phrases will help your stories sound natural and really pull people in.
The first technique is starting with picture this to set the scene immediately.
Picture this. It's a Friday afternoon. The sun is going down, and the whole town has squeezed into the local pub after work.
This phrase works like magic because it invites the listener into the story right away.
Suddenly, the person listening feels like they're actually standing there with you.
Next, try using you have to understand to give important background information.
You have to understand that in Australia, the pub isn't just a bar. It's basically the heart of the community.
This phrase signals that something important is coming, so people naturally lean in to listen.
It also makes your story feel more personal, like you're letting someone in on a secret.
The third technique is using out of nowhere to make a moment feel surprising and exciting.
We were all just chatting quietly, and then out of nowhere, this guy stands up and starts singing an old folk song at the top of his lungs.
That phrase creates a little shock for the listener and keeps the energy of the story moving forward.
It's a simple way to make even a small moment feel really dramatic and fun.
Now let's talk about saying the kind of place where to paint a vivid picture of a location.
It was the kind of place where everyone knew your name and your drink was already waiting when you walked through the door.
This phrase helps listeners build a strong image in their mind without you needing to describe every single detail.
It also gives your story a warm, familiar feeling, which works perfectly when talking about pubs.
Technique 5 is using before I knew it to show that time passed quickly and things got interesting.
We sat down for one quick drink after the cricket match, and before I knew it, 4 hours had gone by.
This phrase is great because everyone has had that experience, so listeners instantly connect with it.
It also creates a nice sense of momentum, like the story just carried you along naturally.
The sixth technique is dropping in, and here's the thing to highlight the most important or surprising point.
Everyone was laughing and having a great time. And here's the thing, not one person was looking at their phone all night.
That phrase tells your listener to pay close attention because something really worth hearing is coming.
It gives your story a great conversational rhythm and feels very natural when you're speaking.
Next up is using I still remember to show that a moment was truly special and stayed with you.
I still remember the landlord pulling out an old guitar from behind the bar and playing for everyone until midnight.
This phrase adds real emotion to your story and shows the listener that the experience genuinely meant something to you.
When you speak from that personal place, people feel much more connected to everything you're saying.
Our final technique is ending with, and that's when I realized, to give your story a satisfying and meaningful conclusion.
Everyone started singing together, strangers sharing one song, and that's when I realized a good pub brings people together in a way nothing else really can.
That closing phrase gives your whole story a lovely sense of meaning and leaves the listener with something to think about.
These 8 techniques will make your English storytelling sound confident, warm, and genuinely engaging wherever you use them.
Today we're diving into question forms in English, and we're going to make it fun by talking about Australian pub culture.
Yeah, pubs are such a big part of life here, so it's the perfect way to practice real, everyday English.
Okay, let's start with the first one, the basic yes-no question, where you swap the subject and the verb to ask something simple.
Like when you walk up to the bar and say, "Do you have any craft beers on tap tonight?"
Exactly, short and easy, right? Now the second form is the W question, where you start with words like what, where, when, who, or how.
You'd hear this all the time at a pub, like, "What's the best local beer you'd recommend?"
Love that one. Moving on, the third form is the question tag, where you add a little question at the end of a statement to check or confirm something.
So you might say to your mate, "This pub has a great atmosphere, doesn't it?"
Perfect example. Now number 4 is the indirect question, which sounds softer and more polite. You kind of wrap the question inside a statement.
Instead of asking directly, you'd say, "Could you tell me where the nearest pub is from here?"
So much more polite. I love it. The fifth form is the choice question, where you offer two options using the word or to help someone decide.
A bartender might ask you, would you like a pint or a schooner with that?
Ha, very Australian. Now, number 6 is the rhetorical question, which you don't actually expect an answer to. It's more for effect or to make a point.
Like when someone says, who doesn't love a cold beer on a hot summer day? Everyone just nods and agrees.
So true. Number 7 is the echo question, where you repeat part of what someone said but with a rising tone to show surprise or ask for clarification.
If your friend says, I just had a $10 schooner, you might reply, a $10 schooner? That's expensive.
Great example. We've all been there. And the 8th and final form is the embedded question, which is similar to an indirect question but fits inside a longer sentence really naturally.
You could say, I'm not sure if this pub does a Parma on Tuesdays. That's a question idea sitting inside a statement.
Brilliant. So there you have it. 8 question forms all wrapped up in the world of Australian pub culture.
Practice these next time you're out, and your English will sound natural and confident in no time.
All right, let's dive into our vocabulary review and go over some great words and phrases from our Australian pub culture topic.
Yeah, this is always a fun one. Pubs are such a big part of Australian social life, so this vocab is really useful.
Okay, so our first word is bottle shop, and that's basically a store attached to or near a pub where you can buy alcohol to take home.
Yeah, for example, I'm going to swing by the bottle shop on the way home and grab some beers for tonight.
Love it. Next up we have schooner, which is a size of beer glass. It holds about 425 milliliters, and it's super commonly ordered at the bar.
So you might hear someone say, can I get a schooner of lager, please? Totally normal thing to say at any Australian pub.
Great. Now this next one is really fun. Shout, which means it's your turn to buy a round of drinks for your whole group.
Like, it's my shout this time. So what does everyone want to drink?
Yes, exactly. Okay, number 4 is RSA, which stands for Responsible Service of Alcohol. It's the training bar staff must complete to serve drinks legally.
You'd hear something like, the new bartender just finished her RSA course and starts working at the pub this weekend.
Perfect. Now let's talk about the beer garden. That's an outdoor area at a pub where people can sit, relax, and enjoy their drinks outside.
For instance, it was such a sunny afternoon that we grabbed a table in the beer garden and stayed there for hours.
I love a good beer garden. All right, number 6 is pot, which is another size of beer glass, smaller than a schooner, holding around 285 milliliters.
So someone might say, I'm not that thirsty, I'll just have a pot, thanks. It's a really casual, everyday thing to order.
Nice. Now number 7 is counter meal, which is a simple, affordable meal you can order and eat at the pub, usually at the bar or in the dining area.
Like, we didn't feel like cooking, so we headed to the local pub for a counter meal, and it was absolutely delicious.
That sounds amazing, honestly. And our last one, number 8, is local, which is the pub that's closest to where you live and the one you go to most regularly.
You'd say something like, everyone knows my name at my local. I've been going there every Friday night for years.
Oh, that's such a classic Australian thing, having your local where everyone knows you.
It really is. And knowing all this vocabulary makes it so much easier to understand and join in those everyday conversations.
Absolutely. So we covered bottle shop, schooner, shout, RSA, beer garden, pot, counter meal, and local. That's a really solid set of words.
If you can use even a few of those naturally in conversation, you're going to sound really comfortable and confident.
And remember, the best way to lock in new vocabulary is just to practice using it as much as you can. Even just saying the words out loud helps.
Totally agree. Try making your own example sentences with each word, and you'll be surprised how quickly they stick.
You're doing such a great job building your vocabulary, so just keep going and don't be too hard on yourself.
Yeah, every new word you learn is a step forward, and you should feel really good about the progress you're making.
Thanks so much for reviewing all of this with us today. We hope it was helpful and a little bit fun too.
Keep up the great work, and we'll see you in the next one.